Did you know the story of the Great Flood is not as complete as we've been told? Most people learned that the flood came to wipe evil from the earth. But what if something else was washed away too? Something that wasn't wicked, but far more advanced than any human civilization in recorded history. Because humans and animals were not the only casualties of that cataclysm. There are clues suggesting the flood erased an extraordinary ancient civilization. One so technologically capable and intellectually superior that its existence challenges everything we think we know about history. So who were they? Where is the evidence they lived before the floodwaters came? And did the deluge truly erase all traces of them? Or did something survive? Welcome to a new episode of Digging History. At first glance, the flood seems like a simple religious narrative. A righteous man, a massive ark, and a world drowned beneath endless rain. The divine flood was believed to be a final reset, a cleansing to remove universal corruption. But what if that story is only one layer of a deeper truth? The Great Flood isn't just written in the Bible. It appears in the histories of many ancient cultures. And what's even more astonishing, the flood may have wiped out an extraordinary civilization, one possessing knowledge and structures far beyond our modern world. Yet despite the destruction, they left behind traces that even the rising waters couldn't wash away. Prepare yourself. We're about to uncover the evidence of a forgotten world that existed before the rain fell. But first, let's revisit the flood itself. You already know the tale. Noah was chosen to warn the people of the coming disaster. His message was clear: repent, enter the ark. But the world ignored him. Then the skies opened. Water poured from the heavens for 40 days and 40 nights. And even after the rainfall ceased, the floodwaters remained for 150 days before receding. From there, civilization restarted through Noah, his family, and the creatures aboard the ark. However, historians encountered a problem, a big one. How could Noah have traveled the entire earth to deliver his warning? And why didn't even one person outside his family join him? It didn't make sense. This led some researchers to entertain a chilling possibility. What if the flood never happened at all? But before dismissing the story, there's something crucial to understand. The Great Flood isn't just a biblical account. It appears everywhere. In more than 200 cultures worldwide, the same narrative exists. A world consumed by water, a chosen survivor, a vessel carrying life to the next age. Mesopotamia told of Utnapishtim, warned by the gods to construct a giant boat. Hindu tradition speaks of Manu, saved by a divine fish and carried across the waters to restore life. The Maya, the Greeks, the Norse, the Chinese, the Aboriginal Australians, all tell nearly the same story. Same plot, different names, different times. When a myth appears everywhere, it stops being a myth. It becomes evidence. Notice how specific the repeating details are across these ancient flood accounts. First, a divine or celestial warning. Second, a chosen hero or family who survives. Third, the construction of a grand vessel. Fourth, the preservation of animals, knowledge, or the very blueprint of life. And finally, a new world emerges once the waters retreat. Even among cultures that never met, never traded language, never shared borders, the storyline is almost identical. Because of this, scholars like James Fraser and Mircea Eliade argued that these flood legends are not mere stories. There must be a core truth behind them. So no, the flood isn't a fabrication. Which brings us to the real question. If these cultures weren't inventing tales, then what were they remembering? This suggests something enormous. The flood legends are ancestral memories, eyewitness accounts passed down over thousands of years. And although many people focus solely on the biblical version, where humanity restarts from Noah and his descendants, the narrative doesn't fully explain everything. This leads to a thought that grows the more we investigate. What if there was an ancient, advanced civilization that perished in the flood? What if survivors lived to tell the tale of the world that came before? And even more compelling, what if the Earth itself recorded what happened? Because the planet stores its history. in stone, in soil, in sediment and ancient seabeds. So, if a catastrophic, global-scale flood did sweep the world, why wouldn't there be unmistakable geological evidence? And there is. In Washington state exists a landform that looks like the battlefield of a destroyed planet. Rivers that no longer flow. Canyons carved far too deep for their streams. Gigantic ripple formations frozen in solid rock. This region is known as the channeled scablands. For decades, scientists were baffled. Nothing about the landscape made sense. Until geologist J. Harlan Bretz proposed a radical idea in the 1920s. The scablands were carved by a single, colossal flood, a cataclysm so immense it would have overwhelmed entire regions in only days. He was mocked for it. It took half a century, satellite data, and undeniable proof to confirm he was correct. But here's the question few dare to ask. Was this the same great flood remembered across world cultures? And if so, what else did it erase? Imagine water surging at speeds over 60 miles per hour. Walls of water, hundreds of feet tall. An unstoppable force capable of wiping out entire cities, along with their knowledge, technologies, and history. Mainstream science calls this the Missoula floods, caused by glacial dam breaks around 14,000 years ago. But researchers like Graham Hancock and Randall Carlson point to something deeper. This wasn't just a natural flood. It was a global reset event. If the scablands are evidence of sudden, world-altering flooding, then where else has this happened? Some propose that similar megafloods reshaped the Black Sea basin, submerged ancient cities in the Gulf of Cambay, and buried entire civilizations, possibly even Atlantis, beneath the oceans. And perhaps the real reason the scablands were dismissed for so long wasn't scientific disagreement, but the implications. It suggests humanity was not the first advanced civilization, but to prove that, we must look at what survived. Because after the waters fell and the world restarted, something strange occurred. Humanity forgot, yet the Earth did not. Across the globe remain monuments and structures that break every timeline we've been taught. Across the world stand megalithic structures so advanced, they simply do not match the level of the civilizations they're attributed to. In fact, some of them appear older than history itself. Take Göbekli Tepe in Turkey. Radiocarbon tests place it at around 11,600 years old. That's 7,000 years before the pyramids of Egypt. Yet the site features carefully engineered stone pillars weighing up to 20 tons, arranged into intricate circular formations filled with symbolic carvings. This wasn't the work of simple farmers. This was a society of architects, astronomers, and master builders. Then consider Pumapunku in Bolivia. Enormous stone blocks cut with machine-like precision, fitting together like engineered components. Despite the fact that, according to conventional history, these people didn't even have the wheel. And here's what ties these sites together. Many show signs of sudden abandonment or catastrophic damage. The leading suspect? A worldwide flood event. When we zoom out, these mysteries aren't isolated. Across Egypt, South America, and Southeast Asia, temples and pyramids lie buried under layers of earth and sediment. But here's the strange part. The lowest and oldest parts of these structures are built with larger, tighter, more precise stonework, completely different from the later additions made by the civilizations we know. In Egypt, the massive stone blocks of the Osirian are nothing like the finer and newer dynastic buildings above it. In Baalbek, Lebanon, the trilithon stones weighing over 800 tons sit beneath Roman construction. So the question becomes, did these sites begin with a much older and more advanced civilization, one erased by a global disaster? Mainstream archaeology insists this is coincidence, the result of clever labor with primitive tools. But when? The oldest work is the most advanced. The damage aligns with known flood events. The narrative becomes difficult to ignore. Could these ruins be the remains of a pre-flood world? A society with knowledge of astronomy, acoustic engineering, massive stone transport, and sacred geometry? And if they were building city infrastructure, not just temples, what kind of world was washed away? This brings us to one of the most debated theories. the civilization of Mu, so-called mother culture, believed to have existed before recorded history. In the 19th century, archaeologist Augustus Le Plongeon, after years studying ancient Mayan sites, claimed that both the Maya and Egyptians descended from an even earlier civilization. He lacked physical evidence. But later, British writer James Churchward claimed he obtained proof while serving in India. Ancient tablets, said to have been written by the people of Mu themselves, containing accounts of an advanced knowledge system and a vast homeland. Historians demanded more evidence, rightfully so. Then researchers began comparing global cultural markers, and the puzzle started forming. The Moai statues of Easter Island are one of these clues. Massive stone figures carved with remarkable precision and advanced stoneworking skill. When questioned about how such monumental works were created, the Rapa Nui people explained that the statues were built in honor of their ancestors. But the origin of the knowledge? They said it came from those who came before, from a world that was lost, a world that may have been destroyed in a great flood. According to the Rapa Nui descendants, the knowledge behind the Moai was handed down, passed from their ancient forebears. But who exactly were these ancestors? And how was such advanced knowledge preserved across vast stretches of time? Did the Great Flood truly erase everyone except Noah's family? As researchers continued digging, many scholars began to question Churchward's claims about Mu. His evidence was heavily critiqued, and historians argued that an entire advanced civilization cannot simply vanish without leaving unmistakable traces, architecturally, geologically, or culturally. Since no clear physical remains of Mu have been confirmed, the theory slowly faded into the background. But remember this: whenever you see smoke, something caused the fire. If Mu wasn't the lost civilization, perhaps something else was. And what if the beings wiped out by the flood were not human at all? Most people imagine ancient civilizations as human-like societies, with familiar culture and technology. But what if the civilization before the flood was something entirely different? What if it was a civilization of highly intelligent animals? Enter the dinosaurs, but not the way we were taught. For generations, dinosaurs have been portrayed as massive, instinct-driven brutes, loud, powerful, but unintelligent, a biological dead end. But recent discoveries are changing this view. In 2021, paleontologist Diego Pol studied the dinosaur Maiasaura, long thought to be just an ordinary herbivore. What he uncovered suggested memory, coordinated behavior, and environmental strategy. These dinosaurs returned to the same nesting grounds year after year. They lived in organized social groups. Adults guarded nests while younger members gathered food. In other words, they planned, they cooperated, they thrived, and they weren't the only ones. Another species, the Troodon, stands out even more. It was small, fast, sharp-eyed, and intelligent, with a brain-to-body ratio similar to mammals, forward-facing vision, dexterous grasping hands, traits associated with tool use and complex problem-solving. No wonder paleontologist Dale Russell proposed a shocking theory. If Troodon had continued to evolve, it might have developed into a humanoid-like being, capable of speech, society, and technology. Unthinkable? Maybe. But then we must ask, what really wiped them out? Mainstream science points to an asteroid impact, but ancient stories tell of world-engulfing floods triggered by shifting land masses, melting ice, or celestial intervention. If a flood of that scale occurred, it could have erased not just life, but entire cities, cultures, and histories, especially those built long before humans. And if such a civilization existed, its remains wouldn't be sitting on mountaintops. They would be buried beneath sediment, submerged beneath oceans, concealed under continents. Today, underwater archaeology is beginning to reveal hints of exactly that. In the Gulf of Cambay near India, sonar scans revealed what appear to be ancient city ruins, streets, grids, and building foundations, now 100 feet underwater. Some dating estimates place it at over 9,000 years old, thousands of years before the Indus Valley civilization. Off the coast of Japan, the Yonaguni Monument rises from the seafloor. Tiered platforms, steps, and sharp-edged stone formations that resemble intentionally carved architecture. Mainstream scholars argue it's natural, but divers and geologists like Dr. Masaki Kimura claim the angles and surfaces are far too precise to be accidental. Then there is Dwarka, the legendary sunken city of Lord Krishna. Underwater excavations have revealed walls and artifacts matching ancient descriptions, as if the city truly was swallowed by the sea. So the question becomes, are these simply rare geological formations, or drowned memories of a world before ours? And here's the important detail. Most of these ancient sites are buried under thick layers of sediment and silt, suggesting they weren't lost gradually. They were overrun suddenly, as if engulfed by catastrophic floods, the very kind described in ancient records. These kinds of cataclysmic events are not fantasy. They are documented phenomena capable of raising sea levels in days, not centuries. According to the Younger Dryas impact theory, a fragmenting comet may have struck Earth about 12,800 years ago, triggering a sudden climate shift. Ice sheets melted rapidly, coastlines drowned, and entire regions were reshaped overnight. In other words, the flood wasn't just a story, it was a global reset. And if everything you've seen so far has unsettled you, prepare for what comes next. In recent years, satellite scans have revealed unusual structures off the shores of Cuba, Bimini, and Egypt, places already tied to ancient legends like Atlantis and Heracleon. Many of these formations remain unexamined, dismissed, or quietly classified. But if what lies underwater mirrors ancient ruins on land, and if their age challenges the accepted timeline, then we aren't looking at isolated floods. We're looking at the collapse of a connected ancient world. Yes, these could very well be the footprints of the Great Flood, but here's the catch. Most researchers focus on physical evidence: stones, structures, pottery, things you can touch, because the human mind trusts what it can see. But the real trail of breadcrumbs may not be in the ruins. It may be in the knowledge that survived. It's one thing to discover a structure. It's another to realize the builders understood things we're only now rediscovering. Ancient writings, mysterious tablets, and strange artifacts point to something shocking. Pre-flood civilizations weren't primitive. They were working with technology and science far ahead of their time. Take the Sumerians, often labeled the first civilization, yet their earliest records show advanced astronomy, high-level mathematics, references to planets we didn't officially confirm until thousands of years later. How did their beginning look like our middle? In Egypt, the carvings known as the Dendera light resemble what looks like early electrical devices. In Bolivia, the Gate of the Sun encodes what may be a highly accurate solar calendar. And the Antikythera mechanism, pulled from a Greek shipwreck, was a functional analog computer over 2,000 years old. But even that appears to be based on older, lost designs. So ask yourself, if this knowledge didn't just appear out of nowhere, where did it come from? What if civilizations after the flood weren't inventing knowledge, but recovering fragments of a much older world? Many ancient cultures speak of visitors from the sky, survivors from a previous age, wise beings who helped society rebuild, which means the flood didn't only destroy cities, it erased an entire scientific worldview. And we've been trying to recreate the puzzle ever since, without ever seeing the original picture. So what do you think? Are these clues pointing to a forgotten age of advanced civilization? Let us know in the comments. And don't forget to like and subscribe for more. Keep your mind open, and until we meet again,